So, when I say the word malaria, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably one specific nasty disease, right? Well, the truth is, that's just one member of a pretty big and pretty sneaky family of parasites. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of its stealthiest cousins. Right, so we've all heard of malaria. But have you heard about the version of it that can literally camp out in your body for years before making a peep? We're about to unmask this tiny biological secret agent. Okay, let's give it its full name. Plasmodium ovale curtisi. Yeah, it's a mouthful. And look, it gets overlooked all the time because of its more infamous relatives, but that's a huge mistake in the global fight to wipe out malaria for good. So what is this thing really? Well, at its heart, it's a protozoan, which is just a sciencey way of saying it's a single-celled organism. But here's the part you really need to remember. It's an obligate endoparasite. That sounds complicated, but all it means is this thing is a total freeloader. It absolutely has to live inside another living creature to survive. No host, no life. Simple as that. And that detail even helps explain its name, ovale. It's not that the parasite itself is shaped like an oval. Nope. It's so invasive that it actually warps the red blood cells it infects, stretching them out from their normal little disc shape into an oval. It's like its own personal microscopic calling card. So this parasite leads a kind of double life, and it's pretty wild. It has to jump between two totally different hosts to complete its cycle. And if you want to understand how malaria spreads, you have got to understand this journey. And this right here, this is the roadmap of its entire journey. It all kicks off with something super simple, a bite from an infected female Anopheles mosquito. And let's be clear, it's not the mosquito itself that's the problem, it's the thousands of tiny parasites it's injecting directly into your system. So let's walk through this step by step. First, you've got the bite. The mosquito injects these things called sporozoites. They don't waste any time, they head straight for your liver. This is the liver stage, and this is where it gets really sneaky. They can just hang out there, multiplying silently for weeks, months, sometimes even years, without you feeling a thing. Then bam, they burst out and start invading your red blood cells. That's the blood stage, and that's when the classic malaria symptoms, the fever, the chills, hit you. And to close the loop, if another mosquito bites you while you're sick, it sucks up the parasite, and the whole cycle is ready to start again with someone else. It's because of that long, silent stage in the liver that Plasmodium ovale curtisis has become, well, a really unexpected and unwelcome souvenir for travelers. You go on a trip, you come home, and you've brought back a tropical disease that doesn't belong there. And look, this isn't just some theoretical thing. Check out this number from the Netherlands. Somewhere between 3 and 6% of all malaria cases that are brought into the country are caused by this one specific parasite. Now, 3 to 6% might not sound like a massive number, but think about it. It's a consistent, predictable problem that doctors in places where malaria isn't common have to be prepared to handle. You can see why this creates a massive challenge, right? Imagine this. You go on a trip, you feel good, you come home, and then a year later, you're suddenly sick with malaria. It's a particular risk for what are known as VFR travelers. That means they're visiting friends and relatives. They might have grown up in a region with malaria and had some immunity, but after living somewhere else for years, that protection can fade, making them really vulnerable. Okay, so if this thing is so good at hiding, how on earth do we find it? And more importantly, how do we get rid of it? Let's talk about the tools of the trade, diagnosis and treatment. Well, the gold standard is still the classic method, putting a drop of your blood under a microscope and just looking for it. But these days, doctors have a whole high-tech toolkit. They can use molecular tests, like a PCR, to get a definitive ID on the exact species, which is absolutely critical for choosing the right treatment. They've also got tests to see if you've been exposed in the past, and of course, rapid antigen tests for a quick answer on the spot. Okay, so once it's identified, the treatment plan has to be super specific. These are the guidelines from the Netherlands, and you can see it's a two-pronged attack. First up is chloroquine. That's for the blood stage. It goes after the parasites that are actively swimming around in your bloodstream, causing all the symptoms. But, and this is a huge but, that is not enough. You have to follow it up with a 14-day course of primaquine. This is what's called the radical cure. This is the drug that goes into the liver and wipes out all those dormant parasites hiding out. If you skip this second step, you're just asking for a relapse down the road. So while a country like the Netherlands has this really solid established protocol, the global fight against malaria is basically a constant arms race. These parasites are always evolving, and the nightmare scenario is always drug resistance. That's exactly why researchers around the world are pushing hard to develop brand new tools to make sure we stay one step ahead of all malaria parasites. And really, that brings us to the future of malaria. Beating this disease for good isn't just about treating sick people. It's about a relentless push forward in prevention, in research, and ultimately, in total elimination. And honestly, the future is looking more promising than ever. We're seeing these incredible advances on so many fronts. You've got large-scale prevention programs like seasonal malaria chemoprevention. We've got the amazing rollout of brand new vaccines like the R21/Matrix-M. And critically, there's a growing realization that to actually win, we need strategies that can fight all the different species, including these quieter ones like Plasmodium ovale curtisi. Just so you know, all the information we've talked about today was compiled using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive into the science yourself and check out the primary sources, we put a detailed list for you in the Notebook LM document linked right down in the description. So all of this leaves us with a really important question to think about. We spend so much energy and resources fighting the deadliest forms of malaria, and rightly so. But what if the real key to finally winning the global fight lies in understanding these so-called minor parasites? Could they be the last piece of the puzzle we need to solve? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. And hey, if you found this breakdown useful, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in.